Here we are.
Here we are. I think hell is here.
Private hell is here.
Private hell's here. No Norm's Ryoji's here. The host is here. We're all here.
The host is here. You know, they said it couldn't be done. All the haters and the doubters.
We proved them wrong.
This show would never make it past episode 105.
They did say that, didn't they?
Mike, what episode is this? Tell them.
105 and a half. 106.
106.
106.
We did it.
We did it. We made it. We made
it.
Where to go from here?
106 more.
Next week. Tune in. Hey, everyone. It's that time again. Good to see everyone. Episode 106, as we just established. I'm excited for tonight's show. It's going to be a good one. I'm in good spirits.
I think we're all in good spirits. I feel good about tonight.
It's going to be a good one. Matt's back. Mikey's back. Ryoji's back. Good crew tonight.
Gang's all here.
I was going to say, for anyone who hasn't watched this show before, and it's like just like watching for the first time, I'm just going to, what we do here, we're four punks. We love music. We're passionate about records. We're not music critics. We're not music journalists. We're not professionals. We're just passionate fans. We might fumble. We might make a few mistakes. We might be inaccurate. We might lie, not on purpose. But we might just get things wrong. So bear with us. We just love music. We love punk and all other kinds of music too. But that's what it's all about. Being passionate.
We're all here to talk some shit. Wait, I'm not allowed to go the first 5 minutes. Oh no.
Shall we get going? We've got 20 records to or more to get through. So why don't we get going?
Well, don't we need to do some housekeeping first?
Yes, let's do the housekeeping.
Let's get some housekeeping done.
Yes.
Matt, you're a great wingman.
He's great, isn't he? He's great. He's great. We should change seats.
I want to see the show succeed to the heights it deserves.
Yes. I remembered. There we go. It's the old.
There it is.
Right,
Ryoji, tell them what to do.
Like and subscribe.
Damn right.
There you go. You don't have to.
We're getting 3 million subscribers by the end of the night.
I'll be feeling it, man. By the time we get 3 million. All right. There we go. That's the housekeeping done. Let's get down to the business of talking about some records. You might see one. Stay around for a couple of hours, Daniel. You might see one in my last pick, so don't go anywhere. Stick around. All right. My first two picks are both like contemporary American hardcore records that are new. One from last year, one from this year. This one might be the best record of 2025. Bold claim. Boston.
Okay, I think I know where you're going with this.
Right. The first LP just came out on Activate Records. I've been playing the record a lot. Of course.
Massacred. I knew it. Yeah.
The Massacred. I'm new to this band. Like, I know they have like 2 7-inches out, right? And I haven't heard those 2 singles, those 2 7-inches. And I've heard a little bit of talk from a few people saying that they were a bit disappointed with the record, this LP, because it ain't quite like the 2 singles. The 2 singles. What do you reckon, Mike?
You go and do your spiel, Mike.
All right.
Sorry, I was interrupting and then told you.
I haven't heard the singles, so I can't make a call. I don't know, right? So, but apparently the singles are more like faster, maybe more like US hardcore. This is like there's more like mid-paced songs on here, maybe even like a slow song. But it's like, I mean, look at it. The clue is in the visuals. It looks like another record from the past, which is kind of a big hint of like what this record kind of sounds like. I mean, it kind of looks a bit like the Verucas, like one struggle.
I see it.
You could, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, that reminds me of something. Oh, yes, it's the Verucas, one struggle, one fight. You know, obviously influenced by this era of the Verucas and all the sort of the heavier side of that era of like UK stuff. Anti-System, I'm getting a little bit of Anti-System in there. The Verucas, yeah, great stuff. And you know, tip of the hat to Mr. Chris Corrie of Analog Attacks, Piece of Maiden podcast, and of course Lifeless Dark for his great production work on this record.
Why hasn't he been on
I
this
didn't know
show?
There's a connection between that. Boy, I love that Lifeless Dark record so much.
Yes.
Man, I've still been revisiting that and just been getting inspiration just listening. But yeah, I really liked the Massacred record. I actually was also not familiar with them until this came out. I think for me, my only problem with it is just the classic LP length where I just kind of started to tune out in the back end. I think their music really works really well in the singles format. That's really my only problem with it, but I think that's more of a me problem in my attention span.
It is, a lot of people do say that. Like it's hard for a hardcore punk band to make an engaging, like full length record LP.
Yeah,
but
one that really shines in the EPs. Right.
But on the other hand, like LPs these days are like fucking 12 or 13 minutes long. So it's like, it's just bigger. It's just big, just on a bigger.
Yeah, I think this one's like 30 minutes or something.
Yeah, this one is proper, like old school, like, LP length record. I kind of like the variety. I like the fact that they're not afraid to kind of stay in the mid-paced zone because I'm a big fan of the mid-paced Rogers or Rages as we used to call them. But yeah, it's real like tough. It does have a bit of that Boston sort of toughness to it hanging around in there. But yeah, it's definitely sort of hardcore punk for sort of punks who wear gas masks and leather jackets, yeah, it's great. And it's like I really do appreciate the production. I think this does need a massive like No Future Records kind of beefy production. I think it wouldn't be as effective if it was a super like raw production. Yeah, the bass is fucking great on this record, actually. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for fans of the Verucas, Mau Mau's, Anti-System, that kind of stuff.
Yep. Yeah. No, I really like
record of 2025.
It's definitely the first like substantial out the gates, like kind of like notable release. I think that definitely like stuck out. Like I said, I really like it a lot. For me, it's just my attention started to wane a little bit.
Okay.
But I will say like that sort of UK 82 style I have found to be very refreshing. I love like I feel like I'm always picking on like D-beat stuff, but like it's just kind of really refreshing hearing stuff that's a little more song oriented, with a little more diversity. So I really dug that element about this record a lot.
Yeah, I think the songs are strong too, kind of memorable songs. But yeah, I was going to say something. Yeah, great record. I think it does. It's funny because like actually 2 weeks ago, actually, I had it. I just got on it. And before the show, I was talking to Jeff Young and he had it there as well. And he was like, yeah, you know what? I'm kind of like, I'm not quite ready to talk about this record yet. I need to kind of spend a bit more time with it because I'm not sure about it, He was firmly in the 7-inch camp with this band. And he was like, yeah, I'm not really sure if I'm ready to kind of talk about this record yet. But yeah, that's my first pick. The Massacred, Nightmare Agitators, Activate Records.
Jeff's an old friend of mine, and I respect his trepidation in voicing an opinion. Not many people have that sort of.
Like I said, yeah, if I'd have heard the singles, I could compare, but I haven't. So yeah. All right, Matt, what's your first?
All right,
what you got?
I don't have a new record. This is a real old one. It's a reissue. Mike, you brought this up a few times on this show about like punks playing metal and how it usually turns out pretty good. This would be a really, really early example of that. I think this came out in like 83. And I didn't hear it until it got reissued by the fine folks at Radio Raheem. So instead of paying $3,000 or so for an original, I was finally able to get this. And I would buy anything on that label, even if I never heard it. But I was really surprised by this when I finally did.
I think I know.
Oh, you think you know?
I think. I won't say it. I'll tell you if I was correct or not.
It's Reign of Terror.
So I'm unfamiliar with this, but based on your description, I'm very intrigued.
Okay. Different to that, actually. So.
It's I don't know. It gets thrown in that I guess when I see people talk about it, it gets in that killed by death kind of like comp style punk. I think this is a metal record. It is. I don't want to say new wave for British heavy metal because it was around at the same time and it's not British, so I can't say it's that. But it's that more. It's metal with a sort of punkish vibe. It's members of this band Worm, who I've never heard, and the Stains.
Okay, SST bands, right?
Yeah. It was like a Los Angeles band in '83. Let me find this here. I think this. I like this description on the insert. It's modern metal.
Wow.
It's good. Yeah, like listening to it, it sounds like it should be on like an old early '80s like metal comp or something. It's far less punk to me than it is metal, and it's really good metal. How many times can I say that word? But I don't know, and the production on it's like real beefy. So also it doesn't sound like a punk record. Yeah.
I'm writing it down to check it out for later.
I think it's still available to buy. So I would recommend it. Like it sounds like a great like early '80s metal record that's more on the rockin' and punk side than the high energy stuff. But it's got like solos. It's got the rock shuffle kind of dun 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 kind of song on it. I don't know, an underrated metal record that's not in a metal scene.
Yeah, that sounds intriguing to me just because I feel like you usually don't see punks playing metal until the thrash really hits. But if it was '83, that sounds like it kind of predates that era.
Yeah, I was really surprised when I finally heard it because just seeing like the members of and just everything around it. And then I was taken aback by and it's like well done too.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
When did this get reissued?
Maybe like 2018 or something.
Okay.
Like that. I don't know if it's on here. I don't know. I feel like it was around then.
Okay.
But I'd only heard of it because it was one of those hyper expensive like old punk singles.
Right.
And so I don't know. I thought when it got reissued, it was like a case of just, well, it's expensive and it's cool that it's out. So maybe that's why people say it's good. But then I heard it and it was like, ooh,
it is good.
This should have been talked about more. This is great.
Cool.
So I don't know if you like old like new wave or British heavy metal, you'll definitely like this.
Nice.
I think you'll like it.
That's crazy though, that when you said that it was like Worm and Stains members, that's pretty amazing. Actually.
Is that Worm with a U?
Yeah,
yeah.
Band, right?
Yeah.
Mike, were you the one that posted the Job Center Rejects compilation?
Yeah.
I love those comps.
So
those are great.
I participated in that GoFundMe for the last one I think that came out.
Was it the Swedish one?
Yeah, I think so.
Man, I've got the first one, like volume 1, but I can't find like 2, 3, and 4.
They kind of I don't remember how many they pressed, but they seem to have gone really fast.
Right, looks like it. Yeah.
I looked out. There's a record store in Columbus that I went. They had all 4 of them. So I just picked those up. Same with those scrap metal comps that Riding Easy did.
Yeah.
They're all great.
Beautiful. I love that stuff.
There's so much of that stuff.
Right. All right, nice. That's a great first pick. All right, Mikey, what's your?
All right, so I feel like it's a thing I try to do as much on this show is repping bands for my home state of North Carolina, and this is it's not a new record. It's a reissue. Well, it's not even a reissue. It's a release of a record that was of an unreleased record.
Oh.
Sorry State Records just released it. And so just a callback to one of my old picks. My last time I came on the show, I picked the the first Double Negative record,
Yeah.
Which is all time great. And I made a fool of myself when I was stoned by saying I'm pretty sure that nobody except Brian Walsby was in a hardcore band prior.
Oh,
I was wrong, and everybody in Raleigh let me know that. And I already liked this band before, but I just didn't know who was in it. I just knew the record. But so this is an unreleased record of this band called Subculture. Sorry State just put this out. And for people who don't know Subculture, they're not from Raleigh, but they're from Winston-Salem, which is, I'm from Greensboro, which is the third largest city in North Carolina. And Winston-Salem is like the slightly smaller city next to us. It's kind of like the Winston-Salem kind of sucks. It's kind of like the lamer version of Greensboro, which is already a pretty uncool city. But they have Subculture, and I want to say the DBs are from there.
all right.
I'm pretty sure. But anyways, they were kind of like the younger brother band, from what I gather, to Corrosion of Conformity, where you'll see like any old North Carolina early 80s hardcore pictures, you'll see people in like Subculture shirts. Apparently, based on this, a funny piece of lore, I think it was in the liner notes, is that one of the members of this band gave Fat Mike his moniker, which is kind of funny. So basically, what's that?
Did they tour together?
I think so. Like early mid 80s, like so. Yeah, early NoFX era. So the kind of backstory with this is they released one record that is fantastic. I think it's kind of gotten it's kind of become a cult favorite in recent years. It's one of the things like North Carolina heads have always propped it up. But so this was an unreleased record that they did, and it's kind of like their version of COC Animosity. You can really tell that they're pulling from that sort of metal pool, but that very specific metal pool, but it's a little faster, less mid-tempo than COC Animosity. And it kicks ass. And I feel like a lot of times when I heard, there's a new old Subculture record coming out, I was like, okay, so is this going to be like the Void thing where it was like, okay, it was shelved for a reason.
Right.
It's really, really good. The singer was sang later in Double Negative. One of the members, I want to say it's the drummer, the bassist, later joined or started the band Squirrel Nut Zippers.
I was not expecting that.
It's funny because I was funny that I found that out because the other day I was listening to a podcast that was like talking about just like they did an episode on the swing revival of the 90s. And it's like a very interesting, weird niche.
Yeah.
Weird thing of swing's popular all of a sudden. But I didn't know that Squirrel Nut Zippers were from Chapel Hill and that they shared a member with Subculture.
Wow.
But it rocks. And there's like one kind of dumb song on it. But it's really good. I mean, the album cover, I think Fred is their guitarist. Yeah, and I think he passed away, so that's why they have a picture of him.
Okay.
The artwork, it's I think a respectful tribute.
Right.
It's not super memorable, but regardless, I don't mean that in a disrespectful way at all, but it's a really, really good album. And I think you listen to this and you're like, this should be considered a classic. This is really good stuff. Subculture, Fred. I think it came out like last week. So I was like, I don't think anybody's done this unless like somebody like got an early copy.
Daniel said he was working on it, but I don't think he actually showed it because it wasn't.
He showed the first record when he was on here, didn't he?
I mean, I heard a Scream LP is a classic in my opinion.
And it's got great album art. I love the album art.
I was going to mention that when he showed the artwork and he explained why that is as it is. But the first LP, the jacket is so.
I think that's why I don't mean to be critical of the sleeves, but it's just like the cover to the first LP is incredible.
Yes.
You see it and you're like, is this like a goth album cover? Like, what is this? And it's like in the best way.
And the color scheme too, right? On that is
oh yeah, like that pop of blue.
Yeah.
I think some of the songs on this were on I think Sorry State Records. I want to say it was like on a cassette. Maybe it was on vinyl. They did like a live Subculture release that had a couple of these songs on it, but hearing them in their glory, this thing kicks ass. So
Yeah.
well done. They did North Carolina proud, and well done to Sorry State Records because this thing kicks ass.
I'm super excited. I can't wait to get it. I'm really looking
I
forward.
think you just sold some copies with that.
Especially with the scroll nut zippers.
Yeah, that's
People were like, I wasn't gonna buy it, but once I heard that they have scroll nut zippers, I'm sold.
Are you gonna listen? Are you gonna listen to Scroll Nut Zippers with a whole new sort of perspective now that you're?
Next time I come on the show, I'm gonna be wearing like a zoot suit and a fedora.
Trumpet.
I'm a swing guy.
All right, that's
Cherry
great.
popping daddies.
All right, beautiful. All right, Ryoji, what's your first pick? What you got?
All right, I don't think anyone's heard of this one.
There it is.
It's a French 12-inch.
No, but I'm excited because we know there's a bit of a boom at the moment with like that kind of thing, right?
So I'm trying to remember where I first heard this. Basically, there's only really one good track on here. It's a 12-inch. It's a reissue. It's, on a label called Chameleon.
Yep, French label.
They have a large output. I feel like they kind of focus on garage, but they have like a few punk reissues. This is basically a Kill by Death single. I mean, it was never on Kill by Death. It was basically featured in some French film. I never saw it. It's called I don't know French at all. Le Blanc et moi. Like it's called basically the brunette and me.
Okay.
That's a great film.
Oh,
it's about some like businessman that pursues a young woman who's in like a punk band, and basically the Loos are called I think their stage name is like The Questions. So this song existed in this single French film. And the band was called The Questions. And the recording of it is taken from the film. And I've had the song like on my computer for years. And when I listened to the record, I was like, oh my God, it's the same recording. I was trying to figure out why there's all this background noise. I think it's taken from a live recording from the film.
Wow.
Is that's the only recording of this song?
So, like, you don't know if like that weird atmosphere, like stuff clattering in the background, it's just like this is the vibe they're going for. But no, I think it was just like some cheap production kind of thing.
Wow. So
is that the one good song on the record, you say?
So yeah, the one it's hard to see, I guess.
Was it like 2 songs on there?
Yeah, Take a Ride is the track. But it's just like one of those tracks where like you hear it on a Killed by Death comp, you're like, oh my God, like just plucked out of obscurity. It belongs on this great compilation kind of thing.
Wow. Is it kind of like punky power pop kind of stuff? Or
It's like French punk and just like really blown out. And it's catchy. Yeah.
It's like what are the other songs like on it, or are they like the same style, or is...
There's a cover song. I don't know which one it is. So like there's 2 studio recordings, 1 live one and like 1 cover. So like the other 2 really are filler. And it's a 12-inch.
Yeah, that's
for that one song, though, right? It's worth it for that one song.
Yeah, I don't know. They're probably like 2 minutes each. I think they could have been cut at 45 RPM on a 7-inch still. But that's kind of like, you know, post-pandemic vinyl production.
That's the modern day LP now.
Right. I'm a big fan of the 12-inch.
Not me. Not me.
I love the 12-inch EP. I think it's great. I'm a big fan of it myself. But yeah. All right. Oh, now you put me in a spot. I'm wondering whether to change my order around to tie
You
in.
got me doing the same thing. I'm like, I have something that could play off that kind of well.
It's a bit of a stretch. I'm gonna keep with my original plan. I think it's a bit of a stretch, that one. Okay, so from hardcore in black and white, the Massacred, to actually the band described themselves as this, which I thought was amazing. So I was actually going to use it, and I looked up on Bandcamp, and they actually used it, and they said, "Yeah, this record is hardcore punk in color." Was how they were like describe the record. What is he talking about? Bear with me. So, man,
does it have a color cover?
Yeah, it's a color cover. It does have a color cover.
Okay.
And there's other things about it too that kind of make sense. You'll see. So when I was a teenager in England, like in the 80s, one of the things that we like to do would be sort of go out to the countryside in the fields and pick magic mushrooms because they grow wild out there. A lot of them, we'd pick them. We were sort of 16, 17 at the time. And it was great fun. You get your mushrooms, you put them in your pocket. You go back to whoever's mum, whoever's parents were out of the house that day. And you sort of go into their kitchen and you sort of boil up the magic mushrooms and you'd make a horrible like magic mushroom tea and you'd drink it. And sometimes the horrible slimy mushrooms would get eaten as well. And then you'd start having a good time or a sort of bad time, depending on the day. But I just remember like the feeling of that, and like how like your senses were so sort of enhanced by these magic mushrooms. And this record sort of took me back to that field in 1983. It's so like psychedelic.
That's a great intro. Sincerely, I love that.
I've been working on it since now. So I'm talking about G.O.O.N. G.O.O.N. from Denver, Colorado.
Is that on Convulse, I think?
It is on Convulse. Convulse is an interesting label. We might get into that a little bit later, but
they're weird.
Weird label, a little bit weird, right?
Some of it I love, some of it I don't. Yeah,
right. You don't know what you're going to get with Convulse.
Exactly.
But God's Only Option Now is the name of the record, and G.O.O.N. is the name of the band. It's a Will Killingsworth mixed and mastered job at Dead Air. It's so fun. It's so different to this. It's just lysergic, psychedelic, almost like SST records. It's hardcore in color. That's what
hardcore in color.
Hardcore in color. It's like, yeah, it's like ugly. It's like really ugly, like psychedelic, kind of sprawling. It's sort of like the Oily Boys, maybe even a little bit like Shit, a little bit. I couldn't really think of anybody that, they immediately reminded me of. Man, I've been having a great time with this without even taking magic mushrooms. This is like the equivalent of,
It's doing all the work for you there. It's
so
you got it all in musical form.
Based on your description, I'm curious because the way you're describing it, kind of does it sound like that band G.O.O.N. or something?
That's a good, beautiful.
G.O.O.N. is not that I think of it as a great, like, colorful psychedelic sort of.
That's a great.
Hardcore.
That's a good one. Yes,
I love that band,
kind of like that. Just kind of weird and churning, and like it makes you kind of feel sick a little bit when you listen to it. But great hardcore. But it's like so different from the Massacred. It's like nobody in this band like wears a leather jacket with the Rukas painted on the back. I would say, it's like,
now is it like G.O.O.N? Because G.O.O.N is still like really fast, like raging hardcore.
It's pretty fast. They're not afraid to sort of mix up the tempos. And this is not perfect. They do a cover version on this record. I love the original of the song. It's "Do It" by the Pink Fairies.
Cool.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with the original of that. Some people might know it because the Rollins band like covered it too in like 1988, and they completely misunderstood what the song was all about. I mean, it's just a very like ham-fisted.
I've only heard that version.
Okay, I like that.
I didn't know it was.
I do like it, but it's such a ham-fisted sort of lunk-headed version of that song. They've sort of completely missed all the subtleties of that, what that song is all about. This band gets it because they're kind of psychedelic. So this band's version is way better than the Rollins band version. I don't know if that's a selling point for this record or not, but Great stuff. It's almost like I want to kind of go back. Yes, that's right. Annihilation Time covered it too. That's right. They did. But I know, honestly, I would have preferred a couple of G.O.O.N originals over the cover. But
I'll check it out. Yeah, it's like that label. They've done some stuff I really enjoy, and some stuff that is not my thing, respectfully, to where I don't necessarily check something out just because it's on that label.
oh yeah, exactly.
But sometimes I'll put out something. Yeah.
What's the 7-inch that we were talking about the other week? DUI.
Speed Clans.
Yes, that's on Convulse too, right? So
yeah, that I forgot that it was on that label, and I felt like it just didn't fit.
It was weird to see it on that label because I don't know.
But I haven't stopped listening to that thing. That thing's amazing.
It's kind of, you know what? It's kind of interesting for me. It's in a way, it's kind of cool that you don't really know what you're going to get from a label. It's like it's not predictable. Yeah. That's kind of cool, but it is hard to know what you're going to get, I suppose. Anything from like gel to speed plans to like everything in between, kind of thing. So
saying it like that isn't like gel or speed plans. It's very
yeah.
No comment.
No comment. Reissue on.
I mean, that'd be sick. I love no comment.
Yeah, that's the second thing. It came out last year. Didn't make it to Japan until this year. Yeah, I've been having a good time with it. Very psychedelic hardcore.
Very cool. I mean, I love my psychedelic hardcore. So
yeah, good stuff.
Do I hear the truck?
The truck has arrived, and he's right on time.
Is that the trash truck or
trash truck? Yeah. To come to pick up my Squirrel Nut Zippers CDs.
You
should have given them to Mikey.
The old ones.
Right. All right, Matt. What's your next pick?
I got something less colorful.
All right.
This is one of the mini Portland hardcore D-beat hardcore bands from like the early 2000s. I guess, but this one maybe late 90s as well. And you can't hear every band, so I just never got around to hearing this one. But I found this record pretty cheap, and I thought I'd pick it up. It's a discography of this band. It's Religious War.
Oh, I did not know they had a discography record out.
Yeah, wow. But all I'm going to talk about is the LP.
Okay.
I have never the production. That's the main thing I want to talk about on this LP, because musically it's it's D-beat with some like sort of like almost like evil like black metal riffage every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the production that is so over the top. It sounds like a bomb raid. Like,
yeah, it's wild.
I like laughed out loud when I first heard it because it was so over the top. It's so pounding and pummeling, and the vocals are like coming from underneath all of the chaos. It's hilarious in how over the top it sounds.
We're talking about the Religious War, like LP, right?
Yeah, Cracked System.
Yes, Cracked System. Yeah, with the silver cover, black and silver.
Yeah,
cover. Yeah.
I don't have the actual thing. I just have it on here.
Right.
Because the other it's on one side, and the other side is like 2 7-inches.
Okay.
Which don't sound like that. They're some of the same songs, but it doesn't have that sound. That just ridiculous, ultra bassy. Just I don't know. I couldn't believe it when I heard it. It was like a lot of bands would want that sound. I don't even think you can do that on purpose. Like, that has to happen by accident.
I always felt they were sort of going for like a 80s blown out kind of Japanese hardcore kind of gizm kind of a thing a little bit, but I'm not sure.
It's just I don't know if it's the bass maybe. It's just it's so rumbling and just I don't know. It just pounds. It's absurd.
People love that record. It doesn't sound the same as it, but it's one of those ones where it's like the spasm 151 record where it's like it's a classic of the era, but you can still find it for like, you know, $3 in the used bins. But it's like a hardcore classic of the 2000s. I'm not sure exactly what year it came
Somehow
out.
I saw that band, but I've never listened to them.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Jesse's inquiring about the original mix. I've only had the hardcore Holocaust. Like,
Oh, I have no idea.
yeah, me neither. I didn't know there was an original mix or a no.
Whatever. I don't know. Whatever mix this is, like it's how I want that genre to sound. I'd like to actually just, I don't know. It sounds like a bomb blast.
It's also talking about like hardcore bands like doing, you know, full length LPs. I think that's a band that definitely pulls off an engaging good like full length LP.
It's not super long either, because it all fits on one side of this LP.
Right.
And also, I mean, I keep talking about the production. The songs are good, and some of the songs, like, I don't know, there is full on like metal riffage going on, but done well. And I like the vocals. I like that just raspy yell. And I don't know, it's intense.
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar with that band, but I'll totally check it out. I feel like as far as like that kind of era of like Oregon stuff, I only know kind of like the more polished like Memphis Transplants.
Yeah. Well, this one, the LP itself that I'm talking about, it's on Discogs for like $3.
It's one of those. Yeah.
You'll love to hear it.
Yes.
I think anything that's $3.
Yeah. Even I like it. You know, I'm kind of picky about hardcore from that era, you know, and I think it's good. So
I felt like I used to be, but then I don't know, something in my brain was like, fuck it, I'll listen to it all. I was glad to finally listen to this one because it was what I wanted to hear.
No, Matt, I feel that. I feel like I'm the most open-minded musically that I've ever been in my entire life. Where I'm at right now.
Here,
like,
and it's nice.
Or like, yeah, it is actually really nice. You can just listen to things without sort of peripheral, like, you know, being persuaded, influenced by other sort of. It's just your ears, you know.
But also, like, what I dislike even more now.
Right.
My dislikes are way more cemented, but I like more to make up for that.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel that.
There you go. Beautiful. All right, Mikey, what's your next pick?
All right, so I'm going to use a lot of hyperbolic, what sounds like exaggerating, like over the top language on this one, but I'm talking about one of my favorite records of all time. By my, let's say, third favorite band ever. And I've talked about one of their records the first time I came on this show. And it's the record that preceded this one. And we're talking about like psychedelia in hardcore. And I'm just a huge fan of bands that evolve. I really don't like it when people, this is all just, you know, not just make it sound over the top. I never agree with people when they say like, oh, a band should just, if they're changing sound, they should just change their name. Like, why are they doing the same name if they're playing different types of music? You know, and a lot of my favorite bands of all time, Husker Du, for instance, my second favorite band of all time, you know, they sound completely different. And I'm in for the evolution. And like I said, so I'm using some over the top language, but I think this is one of, I would say maybe they're right up there with like Black Sabbath and, you know, your Black Flags, your Discharges for the most important heavy music bands of all time. And this is the album where I think they went from being a punk band to being truly apocalyptic noises. And I think, you know, there's, you know, people talk a lot about how Discharge is so apocalyptic, but to me, this is music that bridges like space and time of some of the most destructive music. My number one band of all time, somebody asked, is The Cure, which I've talked about in the past.
The most destructive of bands.
Yeah, the apocalypse. No, I'm talking about Neurosis.
I was guessing completely differently. Nice. Okay. Cool.
This is a reissue of theirs. This is originally on Alternative Tentacles.
Yeah, with a bit of a different cover, right? Different.
It's a similar cover, but it was with a different, brighter color background.
Yeah. Okay.
And
stuff. Yeah.
But it's still got like the Wicker Man thing. So yeah, so this record is when, for anybody who hasn't listened to them, because I feel like a lot of punks neglect them because they've been co-opted, not co-opted, but really embraced by what I will call craft beer metal. Not hating on craft beer. I've drinking gallons and gallons of it in my life.
I have never knowingly heard one Neurosis song. Wow. I might have heard it like in the background somewhere, but well,
that's the thing, is I think they get really lumped in with bands like that they influence, like Mastodon or like ISIS or that kind of stuff.
There's all this stuff that came before all that, right? Like,
yes, but this is like to me, somebody just mentioned Amoebics. To me, this record is like an American continuation of what Amoebics was doing, with the synthesizers, and there's this mixture of like pagan mysticism that feels very like supernatural. So this is a weird comparison, but are any of you guys Dune fans?
Yeah. So I mean the musical genre or the band?
Dune, like the
Dune, sorry,
like science fiction. I don't know if any of you guys are Dune fans. I've been revisiting a lot of that stuff lately, and I'm gonna get a little hokey here in this description, but right. in Dune, there's this like a messianic figure, and he already has these powers that are like that he's been bred into him, where he can kind of like see visions of the future to come. But he drinks, really shortening things, he drinks this stuff called the water of life, and when he drinks the water of life, he like is able to bridge space and time and to see the past and the future and to really become the person he was born to be, and like brings out his abilities. To me, this band makes me think a lot about the Dune books and movies. And to me, this really is like, this is a band that with this record, they took the past of Celtic Frost, of Throbbing Gristle, of Black Flag, Discharge, Crass, like the whole past of what like heavy music was and where it was going, and then they showed like what it could be when it's all brought together.
Right.
Like I said, I know this all sounds pretty hyperbolic, but I really think this band really deserves more attention by punks and hardcore kids, because I think it's just incredible music. It is not fast, but if you like Amoebics, who is not a fast band, you know what I mean? It's got that kind of Killing Joke influence. I celebrate their whole catalog. I love their early, ramshackle hardcore records that are kind of like a weirder version of Christ on Parade. Who they would later share a member with. But this to me is when they really synthesized so many different things into creating truly apocalyptic music.
I played the hell out of that record when it came out.
Well, you're talking about magic mushrooms and punks eating magic mushrooms. This is some punks eating magic mushrooms and dropping acid.
Theme developing. Yeah, I mean,
it's incredible. And what's interesting with this record is, I think on the subsequent couple records, they got so distilled down to where it kind of becomes almost a totally unique thing. But on this, you can still see the seams. You can be like, oh, that's kind of like an Amoebics part there. That's kind of like kind of a cool Celtic Frost riff.
Right.
So that's what's kind of cool about this is it's this massive transition record, but you can still kind of see the past of where it was.
That's actually my jumping off point with Neurosis.
It is for some people.
Right. Yeah.
They can't hang with the whole thing. I hang with the whole thing.
Okay.
I think they get even more interesting after this record.
Okay. Yeah.
But you listen to this, and I'm just like, how did they do this? Where did this come from? Because to me, it sounds like nothing else that came prior, but it also sounds like everything that came prior.
Yeah, you can hear the influences, but they've done like something completely new with it.
I just can't imagine like that they went from being this punk band to being like live. They started incorporating mixed media film shows and like videos of like like almost like real world like Faces of Death type stuff with them. It's just like truly scary music that's also beautiful. I'm done rambling now, but if anybody who's a punk has not given this a chance, give it a whirl. Souls at Zero. It's
Souls at
great.
Zero, yeah. It's great. It's
I
Would that be a
love
good
all
starting point?
I would
give this one a listen.
Okay.
If you want to listen to their first 2 records. They're great hardcore records. The second one I talked about before, which to me, a word is law. That one's like, it's almost like a weird, it's like a D. Kreutzen-esque kind of angular, cool hardcore record. And this is like the next step up from that.
Right.
You can either start from their first stuff and work your way through, but if you want kind of a smattering of what they sound like, give this one a whirl. But give it a concentrated listen because it's not passive listening music.
I was going to say, just as a final thing, I love the way that they actually went out and built a Wicker Man and set it on fire and took a picture of it.
Yes, yes, I love that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I love like the Wicker Man thing with this sort of like pagan influence.
Right.
They talk a lot about like this kind of like Dead Can Dance-esque sort of spiritualism. I can get very hokey when I talk about Neurosis. They're one of those bands that I think if you're a person like me with them, you almost talk about it like a religion because you just really like it just like cuts through you. It's great and it's great.
Hey, that's not at all. You're selling it.
Yeah, I love them.
You can tell. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to actually go back. I haven't listened to that record for ages, and you sort of made me.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
The synthesizers can be a little hokey at times because it's like the guy who joined later was like the guitarist from Christ on Parade, and it's a little more like mixed into this. Whereas this one, it's like a little more of like they had some guy who was just like in a new wave band, so it's like there'll be like some kind of like horn sounding things that are like a little silly, but I love it.
Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Original alternative tentacles.
It's beautiful. All right. Ryoji.
I'll be briefer with my next one, I promise.
Ryoji, what's your next pick? What you got?
All right. This one's a weird one.
Cool. Oh, what's
actually
that?
I kind of don't know the official title of it. It's by Brian Lothian of A Global Threat, and
oh, cool.
I forget the other dude that's involved. So it's like a 2-person international project. His name is Alex C.F. He's been in a bunch of projects that I'm not familiar with.
Was he in like Fall of the Opera or whatever the name of that band was?
Yeah, it's like some band I'd never really checked out.
Were they the Watership Down themed like a Narco crust band?
Yeah, kind of like post crust thing.
Okay.
Wow.
He did art for a friend's band. That's how I know of him.
They were from England.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they're UK. So yeah, they do like this international project. So Brian, since A Global Threat, has just locked himself in a room and just like recorded stuff for years and years and years. Like his output is crazy. He just, whenever I see him, he hands me stuff. A lot of tapes. And it's a lot of it is like bedroom project stuff where like it's not completely cohesive or thought out, but I feel like this is the record and all the output he's made that's closest to A Global Threat. It's kind of A Global Threat went through like such a weird transition.
First show I ever went to, Global Threat. First punk show I ever went to.
Wow. Wow.
Global Threat and the Casualties.
Wow.
Global Threat blew them off stage.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Jeff Young was there actually.
But yeah, at a certain point, I forget the EP that came out where they completely changed their sound. So they had like a 7-inch EP and then LP that followed. I think Where the Sun Never Sets.
That was the last LP.
That was the last output. And I think that was on CD, and I don't think the LP came out till after for some reason. But yeah, they kind of like something about the drumming turned like almost industrial or mechanical. I never disliked it. But like where it sounded industrial, like I think it kind of blends into this sound a lot. But yeah, this was a cool project. It was completely there's I think it's a one-sided thing. Yeah, another one-sided 12-inch.
Oh, nice.
Huge fold-out poster, and then I mean, basically, it's a giant political release.
Wow.
Free Palestine. All the proceeds from the label and from Brian go. I don't know what organization, but like the name of it is Collective Punishment.
Collective Punishment. Okay.
So yeah,
That's awesome. I want to hear this.
Interesting.
I've been on a global threat kick lately.
Brian's been doing these awesome fundraisers with like old merch and stuff.
Cool. I'm very intrigued. Like I said, one of my first shows I ever went to, I saw them again like 8 years ago, but I don't know. They really always. I think we might have talked about them before, Ryoji, of just like really just standing above the pack of the kind of scene they were in.
Yeah, in that genre, I felt like they were the best.
Yeah.
Are we talking sort of like street punk here?
Street punk, yeah. I mean, they shared members originally with like the Unseen and stuff.
Okay. Okay.
Oh. So I think their early stuff is kind of comparable to that a little bit.
Right. That's a pretty interesting trajectory to go from like street punk to
industrial.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I would say like it is like a punk record. Like you can hear his voice sounding similar to the records, but like some industrial sound to it that like might turn off some punks.
Well, now we have open minds now. We're appreciating all these things. So this
with open minds.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're a record collector, you just hit a wall and you're like, all right, I'm done with this genre. How far can it go? Like, where will this genre take me?
Right.
And you find yourself in some weird like pop record that you love.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what it's all about.
I mean, the like line from what is it, Mass Hysteria to like what that guy's doing now.
Talulah?
Yeah, it's like not that we all followed him there, but it can lead there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Mike, speaking of like Swedish kind of punk turned pop, remind me, what is there's something you posted about where it was like a Swedish punk band that kind of went really pop with like a blonde female singer. You turned me onto it via like a Facebook post. You know what I'm talking about?
Is it Plastic Tones?
I think that's it. Yeah.
They're from Finland. I think I might have been talking about True Moon.
I'm gonna have to look it up later.
It's from like the singer of Vanna Inget.
Vanna Inget, that was the band.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then they have another band.
Burning Kitchen.
Yeah, I think Vanna Inget was the band we were talking about, and then like the singer of that band has an even more
cool.
removed from punk band called True Moon, which is are amazing too. So yeah. All right, I'm gonna take a large swig of beer for my next pick. I'm worried about it. This is correct. This is amazing. Actually, I did not see this day coming when I would, learn not to love the band that I'm about to talk about.
There's a big moment here
because I just did not like them for the past like 2 or 3 years, or maybe a bit longer. They haven't been around that long. But are you ready? Strap yourself in. I'm not ready. But this is probably the biggest like self-shock of recent times in musically speaking. All right, I'm ready. Local band, Kyoto. Now, when you think of Kyoto, you're probably the band that probably comes to mind is Warhead. This band has kind of gone from playing gigs with Warhead. They did a 2-band show. This band and Warhead played at this little tiny club in Kyoto called Socrates. 150 people capacity, maybe. It wasn't that long ago. It was not that long ago that happened. To supporting like the Red Hot Chili Peppers
Where's it going?
And having having Dave Grohl like watch them from the side of the stage and all this kind of thing. And before even all that happened, I'd seen like a lot of videos of this band. They have a lot of videos, like live videos, like promotional videos of this band. And
there are a lot of videos of the drummer.
There you go. You've got it. A lot of videos of the drummer, who is absolutely incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Like unbelievable drummer in this band. Should I just show the record? You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Otoboke Beaver.
Yep.
Okay, I've heard the name.
I mean, they're a big band now. They're sort of like, they're one of those bands that, I mean, it was funny. We're talking about like, you know, having very like wide, you know, open musical tastes and kind of not being influenced by kind of other people around us. You know, I gotta say, I kind of was influenced a bit because like every fucking like foreigner that, you know, lives in this town who doesn't like any punk or hardcore at all, fucking loves this band.
I know exactly what you mean. That sort of
You know
thing.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it just, and I used to get in sort of like petty arguments about it. It's like, well, I've never, it's stupid. I know. And I've gone past that now. I'm 57 years old. It's not like, you know, I've moved past that. But so I'd only like watched like their videos and sort of like stuff they'd recorded in the studio on like radio.
That's the only way I know of them is just videos of them would just go around. You don't even like look for them. They just appear.
Yeah.
Algorithm stuff.
Okay. There's an aspect of this band when you sort of watch them visually, sort of reminds me of like a Japanese TV game show. They have sort of a very sort of comedic, sort of zany stage show. They sort of do certain gestures and stuff, and that kind of put me off as well. And so the other day, I was in a record store, and the vinyl of their, it's kind of hard to find the records. Not that hard, but they're sort of in sort of, I don't know how many copies they pressed. They were pressed in the UK and in Japan. I just happened to like come across like the first album. Actually, you know what? This is like, they say it's the first album. It's like the third album, but it's the first album that kind of was out there. This one, Itekoma Hits. I saw it in the shop and I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy this. And I bought the one after it too. And I kind of got home and I felt guilty. So what are you doing with yourself? What are you doing with, like, you know, sort of spending money on bands you don't even like now? What, it's come to this? You know,
what have I become?
So it's like, had a couple of beers, so I sort of, you know, got myself ready, put it on, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this band is fucking amazing. Like, you know, the sort of technical ability is like one thing. I mean, we talked about the drummer, but they're all amazing musicians. It is a bit sort of like old Melt Banana. It's like super like maniacal, kind of a little bit wacky, like Stop on a Dime. What's smaller than a dime? It's like just, you know, so many little different time changes and squeaks and howls and like weird kind of time changes and bits you weren't expecting, but it just works. It's just like, and I would say to anybody, if you haven't heard this band, just listen to the music. Don't watch any of the sort of the funny, like the weird like videos and stuff, because it does sound different when you just listen to the music.
Did it take you like spending money to then you had to like sort of like, all right, now I have to give it a listen?
No, it wasn't even that. I was like, Jesus Christ, like, you know, just like listening to the drums without watching those Instagram like videos, you know, and like,
yeah,
it's just
those videos were a great like sales tactic, really, because I would see the videos of the drummer like playing just that one beat she would do. That's just insane. And it was like, what is this?
It's like next level sort of musicianship, really. But they sort of like, you can hear the musicianship, but the songs are sort of really engaging too, even though that sort of really short, like blasts of like short, you know, 2-minute songs, one after another. Yeah, so I've kind of come around. I'm a fan. Otoboke, I'm a fan. Count me in, and I'm not ashamed.
All right,
they're a great band, and hopefully they'll put out a new record. I think the record after this is like not quite as good as this. This has a little bit more of a rawer production. And if anyone out there is sort of doubting the credentials, this record was produced by Ippei Suda, who used to be in Corrupted.
Oh wow!
And has like, there you go, and has produced like Gloom and like all the old and Frampted and like all the old
got the cred now. It's
yeah. I thought I'd save that just in case people were saying. But it's an aside, really. I mean, it could have been produced by anyone, but fun band, good band. They kind of, yeah. Yes.
They made a fan out of you.
They did. Took a while. Took a few arguments in the bar with other foreigners. Yeah. I mean, I'm all in. I hope they
All right.
put out a new record at some point. I'll be interested to. They probably will, right? But they'll probably like, go on tour with like Slipknot or something like that. I know. All right. That's out of the way. Let's move on.
Yep.
Next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, see, I got one that I want to get out of the way too.
Okay.
Yeah. A couple weeks back, I think it was Will talked about like bands that like people would like, but it's not cool to like them anymore. Or Tragedy was his example.
Okay.
Oh, I loved him pulling that Tragedy record. I was like pumping my fist. I was like,
yeah,
it's
like,
them, Will. Will's a friend,
Yeah,
but I was just like, when he said anybody who does like Tragedy is a poser, and I was just like,
yeah.
you tell him.
I think we're past like disliking Tragedy at this point.
I don't know
wish
what
that
the
were
status
true.
is. I don't care anymore. So like,
So I just been had a question about the Obi. Yeah, I had it tucked inside the record. Sorry, Matt. Sorry, Karen.
No, you're good.
Sorry.
This band, I don't know though if like if they're cool. I know we don't care anymore. We're open minded. It doesn't matter if a band is cool.
Gone through that barrier.
In the summer of 2009, this band was a hot topic of discussion. And they had one of the worst terms that would get used for bands. Mysterious guy hardcore.
God,
we all remember that one.
Back. That's like blind spot. Yeah. Carry on.
A lot of bands. What is that even? It's an aesthetic thing, and a lot of them weren't good.
Brace Belden from War Crime and podcasting nowadays coined that term.
Oh, was he the one who did it? Wasn't it originally for like 90 Racer and like Sex Vid?
He called him fucked up mysterious guy hardcore, and it caught on.
Oh, it was fucked up.
Allegedly.
Well, this band was like the big band of that genre at the time, and I saw them on this tour they did in 2009, and they put on what is still to me like one of the best sets I've ever seen.
Wow.
From any band. It was a record that was on Youth Attack. Just
Hardcore HQ. Yeah.
Yeah. It was the LP from Cult Ritual.
Ooh.
This is I hadn't listened to it in a while, and I re-listened. This record has stood the test of time.
For that.
That it is not like, I wouldn't even call it like a hardcore record. It is this like, I don't know. Mikey, you're better with these, like describing these things, and you've heard it. So like it's.
Yeah, I have listened to it for a long time. I couldn't do it on the spot.
It's so well thought out. It's this full, complete, like the songs are separated, but they all flow together. And then Ryoji hates this record. He's out of here.
Get off.
But it's not afraid to get weird. They'll take risks with it, and they all pay off. There's like moments on it that I would even call them like pretty. There's like pretty parts on this in this storm of ugliness, and those will happen, and they really stand out. There's a song on this record that starts with just this drum beat on like the floor toms, like for 3 straight minutes. It's just that, and it works. I don't know how that should not work.
Wow.
And maybe it's because when I saw them, they did that live, and somehow, like, I don't know, everyone kept their attention, and then it breaks into this like this real heavy thing.
Wow.
And then like the B side of the record, it's their like My War B-side moment. They have 2 like long, weird tracks, but I don't know. They work. They were a band from that, of all the Mysterious Guy and some of the Youth Attack bands. They were way more musical, and that's what makes it still work. I think a lot of those bands were just kind of boring hardcore bands
with a lot of
filter. Yeah, but this is not that at all. This is just a very good musical, tuneful record with this like filter of ugliness over it, which also it has that like it kind of has a rough, almost like basement recording quality, but it gives it this looseness that like I don't know. It sounds like they sat down, played through the whole record, and I don't know. It's a good one.
I'm gonna need to revisit that one because it's been a long time for me too. But I don't recall ever like kind of feeling like a stigma for it, honestly.
Yeah, I think they got a bad rap just because of just the hype, just victims of hype. But I think they lived up to it. Some things get hyped for a reason, and I think this band earned any hype that they got. The stuff before this, though, I'm not real big on. It was a lot more just sort of meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
Kind of like punk with like really good record packaging. But this really stood out. Speaking of packaging, though, it's this nice, thick, like screen printed cover. With a.
I'm just a real fan of when punk bands take risks.
Yeah.
As broad as that sounds, I am a huge fan of a lot of bands that are very backwards looking, and just kind of recreating prior things. And not that I need a band to break the mold, but you see, a band like that to me is just really following their muse in an artistic way. That is very inspiring to me.
Yeah, it does. It's not the kind of like risk taking for the sake of risk taking.
Yeah, it's not like avant-garde or anything, but it's musical.
No.
It's creating art.
It's still in this realm of hardcore. Like they have that bass, but then there's a lot of spice. And I don't always want meat and potatoes. Sometimes you got to flavor that shit.
Yeah, sometimes you need like a good curry or something, you know.
Yeah.
You throw the meat and potatoes in there.
This record, this is a full course meal. It's got everything.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Beautiful. Mysterious Guy Hardcore. Wow.
So I have probably the furthest thing from Mysterious Guy Hardcore for mine. So every episode I like to do at least one record that's like not punk hardcore metal at all. Although I will be able to pull in some ties to it, of course, for obvious reasons. So I have a son who is almost 16 months old now, and we're kind of getting to the point in his early developmental childhood where I'm starting to play some music around him, and so a lot of times we're putting on like children's music and stuff. But I'm also I'm hearing Baby Beluga and all that kind of stuff, and that kind of stuff, which is fine. But I'm trying to find some music, especially to put on in the mornings while I'm making coffee, making his breakfast. That is starts our day well. And this is a record that is a classic of this genre. I think it's one of the most totemic records of the genre, even though it's not even technically a record. It's technically a movie soundtrack. And I was at Vinyl Conflict the other day, and they had like a $5 beater copy of Harder They Come by Jimmy Cliff.
Masterpiece.
It's great. Ryoji, when you're talking about that kind of movie connection, it made me think of this one, which I was going to do. So to people who don't know, I'm not a deep early ska reggae head, but what I really like. And this is like kind of one of the most important records to introduce reggae to the world. Punks may know it because Poison Idea covered the title track.
Yeah,
an incredible cover. There's also it's compilation. So you got a lot of Toots and Maytals, who's one of my favorite kind of bands from that scene. Their song Pressure Drop, which is like kind of like one of the most totemic like kind of soulful reggae songs. Clash did a great cover of it. Specials did a cover of it. But yeah, it's just soul warming music. You know, it's great morning music. I mean, there's the song the opening song, You Can Get It If You Really Want, and it's just like it makes you feel like you can do it. Like you can really get out there. And I listen to a lot of music where I'm like, why am I starting my day listening to the most aggressive, angry music? And I'm just like putting on, whether it's like funeral doom metal or even like black metal or power violence, and I'm like, sometimes you just got to put on something that just really does wonders to it. And I love playing this record with my son.
Does he like it?
Yeah, he kind of bops around a little bit. He kind of does. He does this number. So maybe hopefully he won't become an all-out rude boy, but hopefully he at least has an appreciation.
Asking for suits for his 5th birthday and stuff.
I love me some Toots and Maytals. I think a lot of the times the reggae music that I really gravitate towards is stuff that has a little bit of like a soul influence and that kind of like early ska feel. I think the more dub oriented stuff is still something I struggle with a little bit.
That's definitely like song based. It's very commercial.
Yes, no, this isn't like the Library of Congress. Like this is like really like these like pop songs. I mean, Pressure Drop, the title track, You Can Get It If You Really Want.
But yeah, like as someone that's deep into reggae, that's probably the best reggae compilation ever made.
Yes.
And yeah, you can find it for super cheap. But yeah, I'd say like the only better reggae compilation would be probably like Best of Trojan.
Yeah, those box sets are all
some crossover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, honestly, yeah, it's I reggae is one of the genres kind of like jazz where I'm like, I don't know a lot, but I love what I love. And I mean, yeah, this stuff is just like this is like, you kind of said how this is kind of like one of the most well-known kind of commercial kind of things. It's almost like the Beatles of like reggae or something. Like this is just like Hall of Fame great music.
It is, but like I don't know a single person that's into reggae that like would ever look down on that record.
Yes, yeah, almost like a like a Black Sabbath or like a Motorhead or something where it's like it's just the good shit. It's just good stuff.
Yeah.
And it is a soundtrack to a movie. I watched it once. I watched it when I was in my heavy drinking days. I think I was 2 bottles of wine deep. So I only vaguely remember it. I think it's like a musician who gets into drug dealing, was drunk. But yeah, great stuff. Ryoji, I'm gonna need to bug you about maybe some reggae
definitely
record recommendations. But
I agree.
Same here, because I'm a reggae moron. So like I need like a curated like guide.
I mean, yeah, you can follow that, just like follow all those artists out, because like there's not a single mediocre song on there, I don't think.
Yeah.
I've tried
this B-side.
Go ahead. My timing is terrible. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, like the A-side's as good as the B-side.
Yeah.
It's not like a compilation where they have like, here's the 3 good songs at the beginning, and it just falls off.
Yeah, I mean the title track is the last song, and that's like Hall of Fame. I mean, like I said, that Poison Idea cover is fantastic. Actually, me and my drummer Sam Roberts, who's been on the show, played in like Fried Egg and a million other bands. One of the first things we ever talked about was the Poison Idea cover of Harder They Come, being just like a great cover.
They do a good version of it. Yeah. I was gonna say, like, I have sort of gone pretty deep into all the dub stuff, and like I always come back to the sort of more like commercial stuff with the songs and everything. So I always end up coming back to that. So this is the stuff that I'm gonna listen to, I don't know.
Yeah, I think given the era of just my era of when I got into music, I think I first heard of Jimmy Cliff through he started like doing some collaborations with like Tim Armstrong in like the late 2000s. Where Tim Armstrong like produced a record of his, and he did like a Clash cover of Guns of Brixton and stuff. I think that was how I first got into it.
Okay.
But Great stuff.
Funny crossover. I think when Terry Hall was not in the specials, just doing his own thing. I think Linville Golding of the specials did a couple tracks with Rancid.
Oh, okay.
Maybe just one song. I think he's featured on that album Life Won't Wait.
Oh, that's cool. That makes sense. I know they like recorded that record, a lot of that record in Jamaica, I think. And in England too. Yeah, and that actually that aforementioned Jimmy Cliff Tim Armstrong collab. He did it sounds silly, but it's really beautiful. He did a cover of a Ruby Soho by Rancid. I mean, it's Jimmy Cliff's voice, so it just sounds beautiful.
Yeah,
much better singing voice than Tim Armstrong.
Beautiful. Classic. You've got a lucky son to wake up to that.
Yeah. I'm trying to start him out right.
Nice.
No neurosis in the morning.
I will say, I do. There's many times where I'm just like driving around like with him in the car, like he's just hanging out, and I'm like listening to like Incantation or something, and I'm like, all right, I gotta at least give him something that's like play some Beatles, play some Jimmy Cliff, something a little more tuneful.
Beautiful. All right, Ryoji, what's your next pick? Nice.
All right, this is the most. I wouldn't say commercial, but I don't follow this label. They are a local label. I don't care for most of the bands on it. There's maybe one or two bands I like on the label. It's Triple B Records.
Oh,
great.
It's Restraining Order.
Restraining Order.
I love that record. People don't give them the time of day they should. I think punks, that is.
I feel like a lot of punks skip over this band. I think they had like a demo, a 7-inch, this record, and then the newest LP, Locked in Time. I think they're recording right now. But I think this is their best output. And I don't know how to describe them other than like, yeah, they're like meat and potatoes hardcore, like no frills. There's no metallic shit thrown in. It's not like capital H hardcore. Despite the label that they're on, like Triple B, like you expect them to sound different than what they do. But yeah, it's like if I'm gonna take like a couple bands off there, I don't know the second band. Like I know I've liked another band off Triple B, but like this is
I like Mindforce. I think that's the only band on that label I know that I would listen to.
Mindforce is super metallic too, though, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I could get into a couple of their songs, but I never like got locked into their sound.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Richmond ties with that label. Nosebleed put out a 7-inch with them. They're more of like on the punk. We're on the more punk end of things.
Okay.
And there's some other stuff like Division of Mind, who's a Richmond band, and Killing Pace. All did some stuff on that label. I don't know, that label's interesting to me because there's no consistency in terms of genre, but not everything I like. It's kind of like one of those things like Convulse, where it's like, I'm not going to like listen to something just because it's on that label, but there are some good stuff. And I think that Restraining Order record rips. To me, it's like early Boston distilled, but with clean production. It rips. He reminds me of Choke a lot, the singer.
Oh yeah? Mm-hmm. Nice. I like Choke's voice, I've got to say. Yeah,
I think those guys are all in like a million different bands too.
Keith Freeman, I think he has 5 bands going on. So he's like a Western Mass dude. Singers from Connecticut. I don't know if he lives in Connecticut now. I don't know the other members, but yeah, like they're kind of spread out and they have like insane tours. I mean, Triple B bands are kind of bigger than like what I think we see as far as shows.
They're sort of in like another world than the kind of stuff that we all
like playing events where like I'm like, oh, I didn't know this many people like went to see bands in a room like this, you know.
I always think of it as like Reddit hardcore. Like it's so far removed.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, it's like,
One and
oh,
two.
you guys enjoy being in this space.
it's just like they're like the reigning top dogs of big room hardcore, I would say. The same way that like Bridge 9, another Boston thing, where it's just like kind of they're having their 10 years in the sun of like kind of being like the label. But yeah, I mean, Restraining Order is interesting because you were saying how they do all these crazy tours, and it's like, yeah, they'll do all these tours where they're like with like heavy bands, metallic bands. They never really seem to tour much with like punk bands outside of like they did tour Fucked Up recently. But like they'll play like festivals where like they're the one punk band out of like 20 like New York hardcore style bands.
Wow.
But like they're a punk band to me. I hear it and I'm just like, this is good hardcore punk music.
Yeah,
It's like well
I think
produced.
I think for me it's like the drumming.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like UK82.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, C4 is good.
There you go.
Yes, I like C4.
There you go.
Yeah, I agree about the UK82 thing. There's that's sort of like vague oi-ish influence without being full like 86 mentality kind of thing that I think a lot of bands are doing right now. But just catchy. That's why I like it. It's like memorable songs, that a lot of like punk bands in punk world aren't doing memorable songs right now.
Yeah.
Sounds judgmental, but it's just like I like.
We like
It's
songs.
true.
We like
Yeah.
songs.
You like, of course, yeah.
I think I Don't Really Think So is the song I really like on that record.
Yeah, like that's like the hit off that record that I'll just like play over and over.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Cool.
I'm glad you gave that record prop because I've always agreed like this band's good. People should like them.
I feel like if they played more punk shows, like I think they're just like off the radar of promoters and people like booking shows because they're like, oh, that's a Triple B band. Like they play with like Mind Force and all these other bands. Like, why are we going to ask them to play our quaint little show?
Is it a case where like other members in the band are like in bands that are more like that? Like,
yeah, somebody's in Lethal, I think.
In your band?
I think so. I think the guitarist, like the kind of shorter redheaded guitarist from Restraining Order. I think he's in like a bunch of like smaller like punk bands and stuff. It's interesting. It's to me they're like a real testament of like bands' perception being shaped by their label and who they tour with. You are who you're friends with. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just people don't give them the time of day necessarily.
Right.
That's why I was asking if like other members were in bands that you would more associate with Triple B stuff. Because then sometimes when those members start a more punk hardcore band, it's still just in that scene.
Like
I think they're like I think they're just like one of those bands that's like super eclectic taste, and they combine them and like make this. They do fit in the Triple B scene, but like I also feel like they fit outside of it too.
Yeah.
Nice. Beautiful. All right. I don't have a story or anything to lead into this one, so I'll get right into it. This came out last year, Australian band, who, well, they kind of play a certain type of punk that's sort of familiar. It's been done a lot, sort of right through the 2000s from bands from Portland. But sort of talking about like gothic, death rock, sort of post-punk influence, like very gloomy, grey, dark punk. There's a lot of those kind of bands around at the moment. This band is really good at what they do. They're from Sydney, Australia. Their first LP came out last year on Static Shock. They had a 12-inch that came out 5 years ago. So we've waited like 5 years for their next record, and I think they've used the time wisely to write some good songs. And it's a great record. I'm talking about Negative Gears and Moraliser. Like I said, it's a sort of very familiar like type of punk, gloomy, sort of the Wipers, like death rock, maybe a bit of Killing Joke in there. But I think they do it really well. And there's a couple of things that I really like about this band that kind of made them stand out a bit for me. One is like the vocals. I don't know if you guys know the band The Astronauts. They're like an old...
I know of them, but...
Well, there's a few bands called The Astronauts, but like the one that I'm talking about is an old like UK sort of a narco band that was very close to the mob. And they sort of had...
Didn't like La Vida reissue some of their stuff?
Yes. They sort of have a bit of a... The singer has a very distinctive voice and a very distinctive way of singing. It's kind of almost folky, which kind of doesn't sound too intriguing. But there's a couple of songs on here where it's like, man, like these vocal lines like sort of sound straight out of The Astronauts, which is not something these sort of hear very often. So I think, to me, it made them kind of stand out. It's kind of hard to describe. If you know The Astronauts, you'll know what I'm talking about. This is sort of very unique kind of way of singing, folky, like melody lines, vocal lines, over this sort of very dark, gloomy, grey, mid-paced, sort of, post-punk, gloomy hardcore. And another thing I really like about this band, which is also to do with the vocals, is there's one song on here. It's called Connect. And I couldn't identify the exact song, but the vocal melody is right out of very early Sisters of Mercy. And I love early Sisters of Mercy, so I'm all about it.
I do, yeah. I almost did one of their records, their first comp LP.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, nice, man. It's just got... But without sort of being over the top, he doesn't have a super, like, baritone voice. It would be bad, but it just... I can kind of tell that they maybe were influenced by very early, like, Sisters of Mercy. Just the way that he sings the song. And it kind of just really makes it stand out. And, they're from Australia. There's a bit of that sort of, like, pulsating, almost like motoric, thing going on that a lot of Australian bands have been doing. So it's kind of...
Funny, I do carry that album in the distro. I really like that one. But I have to say, like, I think out of all the Australian stuff I do carry, that one's like so far away from what we think of everything that's derived basically from the Saints.
Right. It's funny. I wonder if almost being from Australia is like working against them.
You have to play rock and roll, right? Like legally. Yeah.
Because it's very gloomy, dark. So it kind of sounds like it comes from the Midwest almost, I'm going to put, the Wipers, sort of more gothic, sort of death rock parts of the Adolescence. But don't worry about that.
That sounds awesome. I want to check that out.
It's really good, yeah. Static Shock. It's again, Static Shock put out a lot of records, and they had a lot of really, really good records sort of to compete with on that label this year. I think, some obviously like sold. There you go. There it is. That's the cover. Negative Gears, Moraliser, Static Shock 2024. Dark, gloomy. I was trying not to say post-punk. I think I might have said it once. I apologize.
You're allowed to say it.
Yeah, but as soon as you say that word, everything sort of becomes meaningless once you said.
I don't know if you say post-punk, you take it out.
No, it's not post-punk. It's more like gloomy punk.
It's gloomy punk.
Which is
it's more like it's not post-punk, but it's more like Joy Division.
Well,
what's that when people won't call things deep beat, but they're like, this is really discharged.
It's not deep beat, but it's very discharged.
All right, I know we don't want to use the term deep beat, but
I know. I just feel like we use the post-punk.
Oh no, I know what you mean. I'm just teasing.
I know, but I was like, okay, don't say post-punk because we use it so often these days.
It means many different things.
Exactly, it means so many different things that it almost means nothing at this point. So, great record if you like the Wipers and Killing Joke, and
I love all those things. So I need to check that out.
Check it out. It's out there. It's new. Ryoji probably still has it in his distro.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he does. There you go.
By the end of this episode, they're all going to be sold.
I hope so. All right. Matt.
All right.
What's your next pick?
I think it was a few years ago, Nuclear War Now started doing a series of records called Eastern Bloc Obscurities, where they were just reissuing all sorts of bands from, the Eastern Bloc. And I'm a sucker for when labels will like have like a little series, like a sub label of sorts, where they just sort of curate a bunch of things, and I'll end up buying like everything from that. And because that's always been like just that, like a Soviet era, like Eastern Europe, like that metal scene seems so foreign. And so once it starts getting reissued, like there's so much of it, and real curious, so I started buying all of it, and so much of it is really good. It's like the reason it didn't get anywhere is just because of where it's from. And one of the ones that I bought from this was a band from Slovenia, or I guess at the time it would have been Yugoslavia. It's Sarcasm. Crematory. He's holding Freddy Krueger's head with his own claw there. And I mean,
after my
the
heart.
band looked like
Holy
what you'd
shit.
expect. When I bought, I was expecting like, I don't know, like the look of it says like, evil blackened thrash or something like that, and it's not. It's still thrashy, but it's like, I remember the first time I was on here, we had a discussion about what makes speed metal. What's the difference between speed metal and thrash?
Right.
And this, to me, is like, it's speed metal. Because it's the guitars on this. It's very riffy, a lot of like harmonized leads, and I would describe the guitars as like razor sharp. Like that's
nice.
That's I don't know. You know what I'm talking about, I think.
Yeah, like sheet metal.
Yeah, I don't know. The riffs just cut, and everything is played it's like pro level of playing, but still with this sort of amateurish kind of like vibe to it, and it's perfect sweet spot in metal. Maybe it's because the vocals are. He just does this like high pitched singing, and he's not really that great, but it works really well for this. And there's something about with a lot of the Eastern European metal, there's a weirdness that you can't quite put your finger on. They'll do things that like don't really work, but there's, I don't know, it's almost like there's a charm to it. Like, there's a song on here that's almost like hair metal-ish, but I don't know, in this just weird, the whole thing of it somehow works. But also in just like the melodies of it all, because I think this also with like Japanese metal, there's a different sound in just the notes they'll use. Like it's like with Japanese stuff, I think has almost this like melancholic feel, even when it's like it's not like a sad song, but there's a vibe to it.
Agreed.
And with the Eastern European stuff, it is its own thing that I can't like really yeah, but that's why they'll seem to pick weird things to like go with. Like what they're picking and choosing from doesn't make sense to us, but
no, I know exactly what you mean.
There's other influences that they have that we didn't have growing up where we grew up. But, I mean, just traditional music, anything really, just the culture.
Just different music scales and stuff.
Traditional
music.
Yeah.
But also with so many of these releases that Nuclear War now is putting out, just I really am taken aback by how like musically good they are. There may be some of them like death and like grindy ones, but it is like some top tier musicianship, and I really think that I think even with these series now getting reissued, there are probably some hard sells, because I don't know, something about it's not like cool enough to really fly off the shelves, but I like that it's out there, and I think people should buy these and listen to them. Especially, I mean, this is just, it's so good. It's musical, like speed metal thrash.
My favorite of all of this kind of stuff that I've heard, there's tons obviously that I haven't heard. Is that band K.A.T. from Poland?
Oh yeah.
I think Nuclear War now reissued that too.
They've done like a big triple LP or something like that.
That band is amazing. They sound like exactly all the things that you've been sort of saying. It's like speed metal, but not quite, and it's like these weird tones and
a lot of the stuff. It's still like new to me. A lot of it I don't know. In fact, to really put on my poser hat, I didn't even really care about. I just didn't really think about that scene until remember that band Terminal that came out? It was like a solo project of the guy from. Now this doesn't help, but it was a bigger like Swedish metal band, and he did like a tribute band to like Eastern Bloc metal, and. Now that I listen to more of the actual stuff, he did a good job. Like he nailed all of those like melodies and stuff that really make it stand out.
Wow.
But yeah, Sarcasm, Crematory. You can still get it. And I don't know if you like razor sharp riffage and
who doesn't
occasional weird moments.
Okay, Enforcer, guitar player from Enforcer. There we go. All right, beautiful. All right, Mikey.
Thank you, Daniel.
This is the one I have the least to say about it, not because I don't love it as much, but just because I think it kind of speaks for itself a little bit more. But this is one of my favorite Swedish 80s hardcore 7-inches. I feel like, it's in different scenes and communities, different records will become canonical. Like, now every 20-year-old punk now has like a raped ass shirt, or what, which is, or shit lickers. Oh, that old ditty. Which I love all that stuff. But I feel like people don't talk about this band quite as much, although I would not say they're obscure to fans who are really big fans of like Swedish hardcore. But I've always loved this 7-inch Crucified by the System by Abscum.
Yeah.
So one of the things that's really interesting to me about this particular 7-inch, and it's especially the opening song Hiroshima. It's an incredible song, but if you listen to it, somebody pointed this out to me a little while ago, and ever since they said it, I can't not hear it. It sounds like the earliest version of like a Tragedy or From Ashes Rise song.
Yes, it does.
And I mean that the best way possible because I love that kind of stuff. Like we were saying, I ride for Tragedy. But if you listen to that song, it has that sort of like epic feeling, where it just like has this sort of like bigness, and the guitar riffs are very melodic in a way
but still with the gloom. There's some gloom to it.
Yeah, it's dark. And it's obviously clearly like Discharge, derived music, but it feels very melodic in a weird way. The other songs don't do it quite as much. There's a little bit of it on the other ones, but it's especially that opening song. And it's just like when you see like the earliest it's like when you watch like I don't know, if you're watching like Halloween, and you're like, oh, so this is where or Psycho, and you're like, oh, this is where all the movies got their motifs from.
Right.
Even if they didn't even know they were taking motifs from it. But you're like, wow, this is ground zero for every true D-Beat fan's worst nightmare. I remember I posted something on my Instagram once about this exact sentiment. I remember somebody was like, you cannot blame Abscum for Tragedy. And I was like, right. I won't say who. But I love Tragedy, but I love this 7-inch. It's really good. So if you, for some reason, missed it, there's a lot of, many great Swedish 7-inches. Give this one a whirl, especially the first song. It's spectacular.
Hiroshima.
I kept that one shorter.
I think did Prank just reissue that?
This is the Prank reissue. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
back when I was younger, Prank introduced me to so many awesome bands through mail order when I wasn't a ton of shows.
Yeah, I definitely have gotten a lot of like all my paint box reissues from Prank and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
great label.
Yeah, very important label. All right, Ryoji, what's your next pick?
All right. I don't have a ton to say about this one because I haven't sat with it a lot, but it just came out. I just got it.
Oh,
In distros.
Oh,
so
if you've got very good eyes, you can see that I have another misanthropic.
Oh shit!
No.
I have the other one, but I still have the staples in it.
It's not my pick. It's just in the room over there.
So the
looks cool.
And then so it's a split.
Oh.
Yep.
Are they Finland?
Yes, from Finland, I think. Misanthropic Minds is Dave Brown's band, right?
Yeah. So I think that's him, and then Cody. Cody is in, I think, 10 bands. But yeah, just like really great, harsh, hardcore punk.
I love the cover of that. It looks old. Like
right.
No, I was
really
thinking
good
that too. I was thinking that too. It has like a really like timeless feel to it.
Yeah.
It's interesting packaging. They decide to do these like separate foldouts, so each side has its own cover. I forgot.
Okay. I like that.
That there's like another famous split that kind of copies that style. But yeah, Cody's other bands, Excited to Die, Bougie Boys.
Oh, cool! I really like Bougie Boys.
He's in a million bands. But yeah, they're Nova Scotia.
Very rural.
Yeah, this thing's been a while in the making.
Man, I've had that for a while, but I'm terrible at like getting to 7-inch singles. I have played it, but it was a while ago.
Was the first one with like a 4-way split?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure.
So I don't know if you got the first one, but it did have 4 staples in it.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I never played mine. I left the staples in, which is stupid.
Gotta do more 7-inches. That's a note to self. I tend to ignore the little ones.
Yeah. When was the last time you did a short, sharp shock?
Been a while.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Who's the other band on it?
I don't know how to pronounce it. Hapia.
Did you say they were Finnish? Or?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's Finland, but it's not like a city or area I was familiar with.
There you go.
But that's on Sewerside Records. Just put out Cell Death, Catholic Guilt. They don't put out too much stuff, but they do focus on local stuff.
Right. All right. Damn, last round.
We're zooming through this.
Yeah, I feel like that was everybody's like quick round.
Right, we're right on time for a nice 2-hour-ish episode, which is cool. Alvilda.
I still have not called that at the record store. That's personal. Sorry State did that, right?
Yes. So this is the record that's responsible, in a good way, for making me go back and listen to records, or buy records actually, that by bands that I think that Alvilda were probably influenced by. I don't know if they were influenced by this band at all, actually. I'm just guessing. I think they might have been. But most of this kind of stuff came out in the 80s from the UK. This sort of subgenre of music, indie pop, basically is what it is. But like, I remember like most of these bands I did not like. Mushroom Picking Me in the 80s did not like these kind of bands. They were like the enemy, you know. It's like, oh, you should listen to some real punk. This is horrible. But of course, now I'm all about it. You know, elderly me, it's all about
it's open mind.
Yes, the gates are open. The floodgates have opened. So I'm going back now and buying records by these kinds of bands. And this is one of my favorites. They didn't put out an LP when they were around. They put out a bunch of 7-inch singles. And apparently this is like everything they ever released. And it's on Damaged Goods Records. Of course, I'm talking about the magnificent Talulah Gosh.
I've never even heard of that.
I mean, this is the root of that sort of jangly,
cool, melodic
indie pop, guitar pop sound with like, you know, female women singers, female vocals.
Colorful pop.
Yeah, I can't say I'd buy it based on the record cover.
This is just a discography of. There's actually two. This is the Damaged Goods version. There's another version on K Records, which came out in the 90s, which has almost the same songs.
Like the cover, I could see being a K Records release.
Yeah,
that's sort of like kind of like I don't mean this pejoratively, like childish.
Yeah. It's like it is kind of like that. It's very twee.
That's the right word.
Simple, straight to the point guitar pop, which is kind of influenced by 60s pop and 70s punk. So it's like this band kind of almost sounds like a British, like a rural England version of like the Ramones. I mean, the guitars kind of get fuzzed out in some places, which Alvilda don't really do. It's weird. It's like they go like both ends of the spectrum. Like the quiet songs are very more like psychedelic pop, and then but the sort of the faster, heavier songs are almost sort of in Ramones sort of early pop punk territory. It's such a great sound. It's like you know, every song's like should be a hit single, you know, in like some alternate universe. Just great. And I don't know if Alvilda were influenced. People say it's like, oh, it's Chin Chin and like, you know, Kleenex and stuff that Alvilda are sort of pulling from. But
yeah, they both have just like French 80s power pop. Like I don't know what came before that, but I don't know if you listen to that record Patrol, that EP that Drunken Sailor just put out. That guitar tone that Maxime got on that record, and he also did the Elvita record. That guitar tone is like a super 80s French style of playing. I can't describe it, but like I've heard it 100 times, and like that's why that record's so good.
Yes, right. Oh yeah, Daniel got the CD. Yeah, but I know there's a few other bands from like the UK from around this style. I mean, Dolly Mixture is another sort of big one, I guess, that people like. But there's others that I might get to.
That's like the main one that I know. But I like all that stuff whenever I hear it.
Yeah, it's just feel good music. You cannot be in a bad mood when you're listening to like Talulah Gosh or.
I'm gonna listen to that. I like I said, I try to listen to some more music like early in the day to make me feel a little less morose before noon. Before I'm putting on like Warning.
You know, we're sort of
Warning. I'm trying to really feel good.
I mean, yeah, we're sort of like, you know, talking about like the childlike quality, but you know, I think it's sort of I know what he's saying there. You know, if you saw this, you might not be attracted to it, but it does sort of take you back to that sort of childhood innocence of very like simple, you know, things with playfulness, like just joyfulness, which is really nice to listen to, you know, every now and again. Yeah. So yeah, and this band went on to be in another band called Heavenly, who are amazing as well.
See, I think I've heard of Heavenly before.
Heavenly, they had like 3 LPs out, I think. They're a bit more indie rockish, but still firmly sort of have one foot in that sort of jangle pop, indie pop.
Cool.
Yeah. So
Talulah Gosh, is that an English band?
Yes, from Oxford, where, you know, Oxford's kind of a posh town. It's so British. It's like, you know, rural kind of posh.
Sorry, what era was this band in?
80s, mid 80s.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, that's my last pick. Talulah Gosh. Discography. Double LP. There we go.
All right.
Matt, what's your last pick?
My final pick. It's not as tuneful. There's like, when we talk about Japanese hardcore bands, I feel there's like tiers almost. There's like your S tier and your A tier. I don't know where this band quite lands. But this was a 7-inch that came out in like 2016, I think. General Speech put this out. And before that, I don't know when the last record they put out was, like sometime in maybe the late 2000s or something. Talking about Soulcraft.
Soulcraft, man.
I'm not familiar.
Kumamoto hardcore. I've been there. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
But that's great. Okay. I love the LP. Absolutely.
I like all their stuff. This is, I'm mainly going to talk about the B side of this.
Okay.
It's unique. Because most of it's very, like, you know, high energy, fast, I don't know, Japanese hardcore. You know the sound. So this one is weird because there is this, like, it has like a demo quality to it. Like the sound quality of it is. It's odd.
I haven't heard that, so I don't. What's the name?
Oh, it's The Legacy.
Right, I've never heard that.
Yeah. Tom put it out, and it was like, oh, a Soulcraft record in like 2016 or whatever.
Wow.
It came with a CD of it, which that's nicer than a download code, I think. That's a nice little treat.
Wow.
But the B side of it, so after all these like short, like fast, high energy songs, there's this, the last song on it has quite a title. It's a Courage to Crawl Out, but Bullied. But it's almost this like anthemic, like traditional, like Japanese hardcore song that has, like, you know, a big, like, a positive solo, you know. It's that kind of like, yeah, the sun is shining kind of like, you know, big, powerful solo. But then the thing that stood out to me the most on this record is, so when that song ends, this acoustic guitar comes in, and for the next like 3 minutes, it's like ending credits music to this 7-inch. It's this like sitting on the beach watching the sun go down as this acoustic guitar, and then like electric guitar comes in, and this guy just shreds over it. Or like, it sounds like something from like a Paintbox record or something.
The way you're talking about that made me think of Paintbox and why I love
think
that band.
that was definitely. I've not even heard it, but I'm guessing 100%.
Oh,
if they can do it, then we can do it as well, kind of thing.
It's beautiful. Like, I will just listen to that part over and over, but it really, to me, it sounds like ending credits music to something, and to this record. And so when I first heard it, I was just like blown away by this just total change that it does.
Wow.
It's
a kind of. I mean, there's a million bands that are in that sort of. I know you're sort of saying about there's tiers. There's like a million bands that are in that sort of.
I mean, might not be fair to say, but like,
we know what we're talking about. It's like, you know, they're not Lip Cream, but 100% influenced by Lip Cream. You know, obviously a Nightmare and just that traditional Japanese hardcore sound, local, rural. But I think they were sort of one of the most important bands in that town. They were the sort of movers and shakers of the hardcore scene in their sort of town where they come from. They were the band. I always remember I was actually blown away by this. It was kind of funny because Japanese bands don't really do this. and that is covering an older Japanese hardcore band on your record.
Oh, they covered Gas Dump, didn't they?
Yeah, which was I thought was a bold move because Japanese hardcore bands don't usually cover other older Japanese.
I've heard of that before. About it's kind of like almost like a faux pas or something.
It's just not very cool, you know. It's like, you know, write your own songs, you know. But I mean, they do it. It's actually unnecessary. That song, it's The Eyes by Gas Tank, which is, you know, Gas Tank's already sort of a one of a kind band anyway. It's like, and then covering it is just kind of a bold sort of move, really. It could have been a B-side or a compilation track or something, but ending credits punk is a thing. A new genre has been born. Well, thanks to Soulcraft.
Yes, but no, but also like the song that is the ending credits is the ending too. Like it's I like that the record goes from this, like, you know, it's that really fast. I don't want to say gauze-ish, but it's not like straightforward. It's just really fast, like all over the place.
Right.
It, like last time I was on, I talked about like bands that were like exhausting to listen to because it's so high energy. And then it sort of slows down into this more powerful anthemic song with a big guitar solo, and then this just super chilled out, like just I don't know, sunset on the beach, like.
Wow, I've got to check that out.
It's a very interesting record.
Wow, nice. Soulcraft. It's just a funny band name too, like naming yourself after a song for like the third like Bad Brains record. That's what
I was thinking. I was like, it sounds like or it sounds like it could be like a mid-90s Revelation Records band.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
But in Japan, it doesn't.
They're playing with Synthfield or something.
It's a really striking cover, though.
No, that's cool. I really want to listen to this.
Good band. I like them, but I didn't know of the existence of that particular record. But
it's sort of just, it came out, and I don't think anyone talked about it really. But I don't know. I'm glad he put it out. It's
nice.
It's cool.
Beautiful. All right, Mikey, what's your last record of the day?
For my final record, this one is a very nostalgic record for me. It was a record that came out when I was in high school, which is dating myself as being younger. Probably to most people who would be into this, probably they'll be like, "You're so young," and to other people will be like, "You're so old." To people in shows nowadays. To me, this album, this is more maybe hyperbole sounding to some people, but I truly believe this. And like I said, I'm biased because I was there for it. I put this record, I'm not saying it's as good as this record, but I put it in the same tier as a Rain and Blood, as a Left Hand Path, as From Enslavement to Obliteration. This band kind of got clowned on a little bit after a little while. They broke up. I don't know the details, so I know at some point somebody got accused of something. I don't know the details, so I'm kind of gonna still pick it. And I just love this record. I think it transcends their genre, and that is Magruder Grind self-titled. I absolutely adore this album. I saw them many times. The most memorable time was them with Cough, which if you've ever heard Cough, they're like a great doom metal band. And going from this to Cough back to back, it's like you're gonna have a heart attack from your heart going so slow to your heart going so fast. For anybody who hasn't heard it, it's like a mixture of like grindcore of like a band like Nazem. There's a lot of Brutal Truth in here, but there's also like a lot of spaz and that sort of like sample heavy sound collage stuff. There's a lot of samples on here. There's like a Boys in the Hood sample that I really like. It opens. I don't know if you guys have had. I'm sure you guys have, where you've heard a sample a million times on a record, And then you're watching a movie and you're like, that's what that sample's from. And it's like the most exciting thing. If you're a fan of spaz, there's like a million things. Like the first time you're watching The Simpsons and they go, let's go kick some Christian Keister. And you're like, that's that spaz song. But the opening song to this, The Protocols of Anti-Sound, when I saw the movie Tetsuo the Iron Man, a Japanese body horror film, one of my favorite films of all time now. It's a movie that really kind of expanded my idea of what a movie and a horror movie can be. I love it a lot. I have done entire podcasts on it. Multiple, both my own and somebody else's about Tetsuo the Iron Man, but it opens with a sample of that. It's just a really, really great record. So the big standout to me, it's first of all, they're a 3-piece band with no bass, which normally is like makes me like scoff a little bit as a guy who's played bass in bands. I'm like, why the fuck don't you have a bassist? Like, you need a bassist. Okay, this is stupid, but they pull it off so well. But the real highlight is the drumming on this record. I'm biased because I know him. I've played with many of his bands, but Chris Moore, to me, my friend said this in high school, and I still agree with this. He's the Michael Jordan of blast beats. What he was doing.
Oh, Chris was in that band?
Yes, he played on everything except their last record. He's also played in Coke Bust. He played in DOC.
Isn't he in Repulsion now?
Yes,
yeah,
he plays
for 5 bands at all times.
Yeah. He's in Repulsion now. He plays in like a goth band called Vosh now.
He's right. They did a big tour.
Yeah, he plays in a band now. I booked them, and I'm blanking on their name. Cannot remember their name. He plays in like a death metal. He played in a band called the Rememberables. That was kind of like a poppy punk band. He plays in like a death metal band now, and I cannot remember. But seeing them play, it was really cool because it was just watching the man blast beat again. It was like something else. He just has a sense of like catchiness to his drumming. Like, this is one of my all-time favorite air drumming records. You're like, I'll listen to this and I'll just be like every simple catch and stuff because it's so memorable. It's really just listening to a really good punk drummer play extreme metal music where it's just really catchy and it's got these fills in it that are just burned in my brain. Not to get too anecdotal, but there's one drum fill that me and my friends would always joke because the opening drum fill is identical if you put it back to back to the opening drum fill to Superman by Goldfinger, and it sounds very and it sounds so similar to it. I used to have a joke playlist where I put those two songs back to back. I think it might have been Abusive Philanthropic Self-Gain. There's a really good last song on here called Martyrs of the Shoah. There's a lot of like jokey kind of elements to it, but it never feels silly to me. Like, I love spaz, but it never goes full silliness. But the last song, Martyrs of the Shoah, is really beautiful. Where at the end there's singing in Hebrew. The whole song's about the Holocaust. It's really heavy, emotionally music. I don't know. I just truly think this record is special. And again, it's one of those ones where it was a big record when I was a teenager. So I was like, saw them like 3 times on this record. And then I saw them later without Chris Moore, and it was not the same. Their last LP is just like, it needs that Chris Moore energy.
That record was such a step up from what they were doing before.
They were like kind of like very jokey. I think they had a song about like emo Holocaust or something.
Yeah.
Something like that, where it's like
to me, that's one of those kinds of records that like you like can't go back to the old stuff because that one just crushes.
Yep.
Seeing them
was called Crusher. But
seeing them around when that was it, you're right. Like, they didn't need a bass player. Like, it was so like just heavy, like with just one guitar. Like, they had that sound just nailed down, and they were so good live around that time.
Oh, dude, he was an incredible front person. He was like, there's a chandelier in the venue that we played at, and he was like hanging from the chandelier, and it was just like incredible. Yeah, I don't know. I just really love this record. I got this at that show when I saw them with Cough. So I've had this since high school. So I got it on some clear. Yeah, and I don't think they're ever getting back together or anything. Like I said, I think there's been some sort of
There was drama of some sort.
drama, but I honestly I don't want to know because
Okay.
I don't want to have this record ruined.
I think also once they got a different drummer, it was like, what's the point?
It's not the
He
same.
was such the part of that band.
It's like listening to those 90s Slayer records where you're like, listen, the riffs are still there. They're not bad. But, you know, without Dave Lombardo, it's just not the same.
Right.
And it kind of felt like that to me.
Gotcha.
Yeah. They did one more 10-inch on Scion Records, which was a whole when I was a teenager on message boards on the not Triple B, on the B9 boards. It was a hot topic of conversation of
The last time I saw them was on a Scion Fest.
yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Back when those things were going on.
Yeah. So I was like, that's a whole other can of worms. But yeah, that's my last record of the day is a record that's really I put it on today. I listened to all these records today while I was working, and I was just like, man, this record is something else. Some great samples. The song Bridge Burner is like the great slow, heavy song. When I saw them, the last time I saw them with Chris, they don't like to play that song because fights always happen to it. And sure enough, they did it as an encore and a fight broke out. And I was just like, so sick. Good stuff.
Killer.
Chris Moore.
It's more.
The Michael Jordan of blast beats. Listen to Coke Bust.
Wonderful.
Listen to all of its bands.
All right, Ryoji, the last pick of the day. What you got?
All right, you've probably heard of this band. It's their, I believe, third LP now on Feel It Records.
Oh.
Ex Tarantula, ex Kulo.
Maneaters? Yeah, Maneaters.
You called that?
They are going on tour soon to the Northeast. I'm excited because I've been wanting to see them play. It's crazy that they've put out 3 LPs now and they've not really toured from Chicago.
Yeah, they were supposed to play Richmond, and then pandemic happened, I remember.
Yeah, I mean, good for us because they pumped out, 2 more records. So, there's, I don't know how to describe this band to people that haven't heard them. If you,
I've never heard them, so
me neither.
Like Annihilation Time.
I'd say that's
MC5, Motorhead, and like punk. Just like roll that into one band. I mean, it's 2 members of Kulo, I believe. Yeah, like
when you say Feel It Records, I have a certain.
So, yeah, like Feel It. I had another record from Feel It Records, but it's very, very pop oriented. As you know, like that label.
Yes.
You probably don't get a lot of coverage on this show. Other than what, like Class.
I feel it's probably one of the most well represented labels on this show.
Feel It, yeah, there's been quite a few, but
oh really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I guess maybe as a percentage of the label itself, it's a fraction of their output.
Okay.
It's kind of like following Iron Lung Records, like you can't keep up with their releases.
Right.
But yeah, they do their own artwork. It's all mental.
So is that what is that artist's name? Is that Drug Face?
Yeah.
His birth name, of course.
His Christian name.
His Christian name, Drugthany.
I don't know how many pages there are, but like they printed out a full page zine.
That's awesome.
With lyrics and collages. But it's like, perfect, funny punk shit that, it's silly and gets goofy, but it works so well with the music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You said this was their 3rd LP?
Yeah. And like they're super consistent. All the records sound the same. Like they don't change the style at all. And I think it's great. like they don't need to evolve into anything else.
Right.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
know. We've talked. I think we're looking at hitting Chicago sometime, and I know our drummer was in Fried Egg, who shared the guy who runs Feel It also did that, and we're like,
Okay.
play with the Man Eaters. That band is so sick.
Wow, man, that's weird.
I feel like it's a band that really unites like metalheads and punks in a single show. They're not even a crossover band. They just like scratch that itch for lots of different people all at once.
Gotcha.
I just wish Tarantula. I do wish Tarantula was still a band. I will say, somebody mentioned them.
Yeah,
I loved that band. I never got to see them. I really liked those 7 inches.
All right, there we have it. That was a great last pick. I'm intrigued by the Man-Eaters.
Yeah, like if you're gonna pick up a record, it doesn't matter. Eventually, I think you'll pick up all 3 of them.
Okay.
They need to listen to it sounds like. So.
Cool. All right, that was a great show. We had a great time. Great picks. Of course, they were great picks. We wouldn't expect anything else on this show, you know. We're good at this. Let me announce next week's show. It's going to be a good one. Local hero, Patrick Camion from Destruct.
Oh,
yes. The man
Patrick Bad Boy Camion.
It's been a while. He's back. Suicidal maniac. Pat from Destruct. Rachel from The Distance is back again. And John from Cruel Noise. John hasn't been on for a while. Good to see him again. That's going to be on next Friday, February 21st, 10 p.m. Eastern. What's that in Mountain Time? What's 10 p.m. Eastern in Mountain Time?
That'd be 8?
8, yeah. I just stick to the Eastern. So. All right.
I'm going to deal with Pacific.
We'll probably keep on chatting for a little bit after I press the stop button. See you next week. It's been a great show. Thanks for tuning in as always. Until next week, what are you going to do? You're going to stay healthy.
Stay healthy and stay
clean.